Trump, it's that he loves tariffs.
The word tariff, properly used, is a beautiful word. I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the...
We start this hour at the White House. The Trump administration facing new tariffs today as trade wars with some of our closest trading allies continue to escalate.
The Caribbean, a region known for its beauty, culture, and strategic importance. For centuries, powerful nations have sought to influence its islands. Today, two of the world's largest powers, the United States and China, are vying for dominance in this vital part of the world. But how did we get here? And what does the future hold for the Caribbean? Let's explore the past, present, and future of this region caught between two superpowers. In 1823, U.S. President James Monroe introduced the Monroe Doctrine. His message was simple: European powers should no longer interfere in the Western Hemisphere, and in return, the U.S. would avoid involvement in European affairs. The doctrine, though originally focused on preventing European colonial expansion, quickly became a tool to assert U.S. influence over the Caribbean. Over the years, the U.S. used the Monroe Doctrine to justify military interventions and political maneuvering in the region. The Caribbean, with its proximity to U.S. shores, became known as America's backyard. It was seen as a place where U.S. interests, whether economic, political, or military, had to be safeguarded. Fast forward to today. A new player has entered the scene: China. Over the last 2 decades, China's economic and political influence in the Caribbean has grown rapidly. Through investments in ports, highways, and infrastructure, China is making its presence felt. China has invested billions of dollars in Caribbean countries, building roads in Jamaica, expanding ports in Trinidad and Tobago, and funding energy projects in Haiti. All of this is part of China's broader Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to connect the world through trade routes, ports, and infrastructure. But China's motives go beyond just trade. China seeks to secure key trade routes, access vital resources, and build political alliances. By offering these investments, China is positioning itself as a major economic partner to the Caribbean, even as U.S. influence in the region has waned. But China's growing influence isn't just about trade. Geopolitically, the Caribbean is of immense importance. The Panama Canal, one of the world's most vital waterways, connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. China's investments in the region, particularly in ports and infrastructure, have raised concerns in Washington. U.S. military officials worry about the possibility of China establishing military bases, intelligence-gathering facilities, or logistical hubs close to U.S. borders. Such a presence would have significant implications for U.S. security, particularly as China strengthens its global military reach. Another area of tension is Taiwan. China has used its growing economic power to convince several Caribbean nations to switch diplomatic recognition from Taiwan to the People's Republic of China. This shift is seen as a strategic move by China to isolate Taiwan and increase its influence over the region. For the Caribbean, Chinese investments have brought tangible benefits. New infrastructure, such as highways in Jamaica and energy plants in Haiti, create jobs and stimulate economic growth. Countries that were once solely dependent on the U.S. and Europe for trade are now diversifying their partners. However, there are concerns. Small local businesses in some islands fear being overshadowed by Chinese companies, which often flood the market with cheaper goods. And some governments worry about the long-term consequences of borrowing from China. There are fears that the heavy debt could eventually lead to Chinese control over key assets, a potential debt trap. Meanwhile, the U.S. has scaled back its presence in the Caribbean. Under policies like America First, the U.S. has reduced foreign aid, cutting back on U.S. diplomatic and development staff in the region. Domestic issues like immigration and trade have taken priority, and as the U.S. turns inward, China has seized the opportunity to step in. The reduced U.S. engagement has opened the door for China to fill the void. While the U.S. still holds significant power, the growing Chinese influence has many wondering: will the U.S. reassert itself in the Caribbean, or will it let China establish dominance? Take Panama, for instance. The U.S. has long held strategic interests in the Panama Canal, but China has heavily invested in ports and infrastructure around the canal. These investments have raised alarms in Washington, as they could potentially give China leverage over one of the most vital trade routes in the world. Cuba and the Dominican Republic have also shifted alliances, moving from recognition of Taiwan to supporting China. These changes reflect China's growing influence in the shifting diplomatic landscape in the Caribbean. Smaller nations like Suriname and Antigua and Barbuda are increasingly reliant on China for economic support. China's deepening ties with these islands could further limit U.S. influence in the region. As we look ahead, the question remains, will Caribbean nations assert their independence and self-determination, or will they remain in someone's backyard? The rise of China presents an opportunity for economic growth, but it also raises the stakes for geopolitical influence in the region. The Caribbean's future is uncertain. The choices these nations make today will shape their role in global politics and will determine whether they can truly chart their own course, free from the influence of larger powers. This has been a look at the evolving dynamics in the Caribbean, a region that will continue to play a key role in global geopolitics. Stay tuned to see how this story unfolds.